Indestructible Gaming. Choose your character. Musketshot. Mr. K. Let the review begin.
Hello and welcome to Indestructible Gaming and More. I'm Musketshot. Alongside me is Mr. K. Mr. K, hello.
Hello.
Hello. So this week we played a game called Kona, which is on Xbox Game Pass. And so we'll be doing a review of that. So let's get started.
Yes.
So Kona is published by Ravenscourt and developed by Parable. It was released in 2017. It's a one-player first-person game. It's rated T for blood, sexual themes, use of alcohol, use of tobacco, and violence. The main character does smoke cigarettes in it. We'll get into that a little bit. It's on Windows PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. Like I said, we played it on Xbox One on Game Pass.
Yep.
Let's get into the story a little bit. This story takes place in 1970, northern Canada, pretty much in the Quebec area, to be accurate. You play as Detective Carl Faubert, Faubert. You've been contacted by a rich industrialist, Mr. Hamilton, who owns a hunting manor up there in the northern Canada area. And he's reported several cases of vandalism against his property. And so he doesn't have anyone to turn to. So he reaches out to you, Detective Carl Faubert, to help him out with these vandalism cases. And in the process of going to visit Mr. Hamilton, it seems like a nice sunny day. All of a sudden you get caught in an unexpected snowstorm. In the game, you have to try to solve the story, which changes shortly after you get caught in the snowstorm, and try to understand what's going on with these vandalism cases. There's other things happening with the characters, but also some mysterious otherworldly events going on around you as well. Interesting storyline. I don't want to give away too much of the story because I don't want to ruin it for you if you're interested in playing this game.
Yeah, it's a very story-focused narrative.
It's a very story-focused game, and I don't want to give away too much of the plot and stuff like that. So that kind of gives you just a general idea of the story. So your main character, obviously, is Detective Faubert, Carl Faubert.
Carl!
Yeah. So he's really the only character in the game. You're really kind of just doing everything on your own. You do run into other people occasionally, but for the most part, it's pretty much just you alone. Anything about Carl that you want to talk about, other than that you don't really get to see much of Carl?
Well,
legs and arms and hands, and he's a smoker.
Well, he's a drinker.
No, he's a drinker too. That's right. So yeah, it's 1970. I mean, where smoking and cigarettes and stuff like that was kind of the norm for a lot of stuff. So
detective stuff.
Right?
Typical
detective stuff. Yeah. So the developers put this in. Nothing real new if you're familiar with a lot of those detective movies back from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and that type of stuff. That's just kind of their thing. So gameplay, let's get into that. So there's a narrator for this game, and he's kind of monotone. And at first, I couldn't get into it. His voice was so monotone, and it just reminded me of listening to an audiobook. But as the game goes on, I got used to it. It wasn't so bad after a while. What did you think of the narrator's voice?
I liked it. Like you said, it was like monotone because the way the world was shown off, it just fit the atmosphere.
Yeah. If you've played any of these detective mystery games, you'll see that it's pretty much like a lot of the other ones. You're going to click on items and the narrator is going to tell you what you're looking at, or it's going to tell you a little bit of a story or explain it, whatever. Sometimes the description appears on the wall, which is a little bit different than what I've seen in other games.
It's different. I like it though.
Yeah. Because sometimes I'd click on the item and then I was like, okay, where is he? He's not talking. And then I'd look around and like, oh, it's written on the wall. Okay. So that was kind of different. There's a white dot that's on those items that you can either collect or click on to learn more about the item. But the white dot is so small, it's easy to miss. And I'm not sure why they selected a white dot, because especially when everything outside is covered in snow, it doesn't make sense. I mean, there's not that much to click on in the snow that's white, but I mean, it's really tough. And then sometimes you don't know, you think a dot is there, so you go to click on it, but it's the light reflecting off of something like I'll just say this, for in there's a point where you're in a general store and there's a broken glass on the floor, and it looks like there's a dot on the broken glass. So I go over to click on it. I'm like, oh, that's not it. It's just a reflection from the light above. And it's those types of things that kind of made it a little bit more tricky and a little bit more difficult. The dots, like I said, it's really small, and I kind of wish they had made it a little bit bigger or used something different. What do you think about that part of that?
I don't know. I don't know how I would describe it.
Yeah, I mean, it
could have been worse.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been. You have a truck that you drive in. It's a Chevy truck. Again, this is 1970s, so it's an old truck. It does have a radio in it. It does play music, which we'll get into, and you can turn the radio on or off and stuff like that. This truck it has one of the triggers will, move you forward. The other one the trigger will move you in reverse. And unless I miss something, there's no brakes on this truck. So did I miss that, or did you find brakes in this truck?
I thought you pressed LT like you normally would.
Well, yeah, you do LT
trigger.
to put it in reverse to sort of stop, but there wasn't like any like typical like brake button. So I don't know. To me, I would stop myself by just throwing the damn thing into reverse. So that's how I stopped myself. So although sometimes I threw myself into reverse too far and I ended up going back a lot further than I wanted to. So that was kind of weird. The driving fast on snow was kind of tough. That was a little weird too. You didn't have to hold the button down to move forward. You could just get it going, and the truck would sometimes just kind of speed up on its own without me even touching the button. So, which, it's not always that great if you're on snow and you're trying to keep an eye on things along the side of the road, like driveways, mailboxes, that types of stuff. Little difficult to drive on the road if you've driven for real on snow. It has sort of that same feel to it, the same type of elements that you got to deal with. Cold weather and the snow really affect your character, which was, I thought, pretty unique and different than in a lot of games. Your character, if he's out in the cold weather, he has a little symbol for heat, and it will start to decrease the colder he gets. And there's a symbol for his, I guess, for his brain as well.
It's his mental state.
Yeah. So the colder he gets, the less, I guess, basically the harder it is for him to concentrate. Things start to go fuzzy on him. Things start to get blurry.
He also loses a lot of stamina.
If you let him go, he's going to pass out. So the only way to really keep him from doing that is to basically, obviously, keep him warm. So there's certain areas where you can start fires, either inside a building or outside a building. They have little like a fire pit type of thing, and that's where you can kind of rejuvenate yourself and get yourself back to a normal state. And this is also one of the places where you can a lot of times save the game, which is pretty good as well. The only problem is that sometimes they're not that close to where you are, and if you're kind of in an area where you're dealing with a lot of cold weather and stuff like that, and you've got a long way to go, you might find yourself in some trouble. So it's a little tricky. You have to play the game pretty smartly. Sometimes you got to run over to the fire, kind of make sure you're all set, ready to go before you go doing some wandering around. Saving the game was kind of tricky. Like I said, I mean, the saving it at the fire pit's fine. The it auto saves often.
Does it? I haven't even noticed. I've just been lighting every fire I see.
I noticed that it auto saved often. But if you assume that the autosave is going to bring you back to exactly where you just were, I didn't get that in the game. Every time if something happened and I passed out or whatever, it didn't bring me back to exactly where I last autosaved. It brought me back to the last checkpoint, which was where I might have been at a fire pit. The first couple times that happens to you, you're kind of like, oh man, that's a bummer. So I didn't really like that. Autosave was a little tricky, to say the least. I thought to just assume that you'd return back to where you were. And sometimes the checkpoint where you were might be a little bit further away, and you have to kind of look for things again. So that was something I didn't really like that much. Inventory items. There's inventory items, there's documents, there's consumables and equipment. There's like different like storage things you have to go into which I thought would have been better if they had moved it all into like one just inventory thing and then you just tab over.
Yeah, that probably would have been better.
Because I found that it was like, okay, which one is it in? Oh, it's not that one. It's not consumables. It's equipment. Oh, it's not equipment. It's inventory. Oh, it's in that one. Okay. And it was kind of like one of those things where it was just like, you spent time looking.
Isn't
in
equipment
each one.
also part of inventory because you also have it on you?
Yeah, and I would think so. And I mean, let's face it, we've played enough games where your character is picking stuff up. They're picking up chairs. They're picking up this. They're picking up that. And it's like, okay, they're just shoving it in their pocket. It's like, so.
Come on, you ever seen a detective hold 3 logs at once?
Yeah. That's
just with everything else, flashlight, axe, everything all in one. You never seen that?
Yeah.
I've seen that all the time on the
shoving it in his pocket, deep pockets.
I see this nice foldable chair, put that in.
Yeah.
Grab a nice car battery. Oh, I need that. Oh, put that in the pocket.
So that was kind of weird. I like I said, I wish they had just had like one category. You just go in it and then tab over to whatever you needed. You can throw stuff into the back of your truck to use it as a storage. It won't show in those categories. So if you wanted something that was in the truck, you had to go back to the truck. So I had to make sure. I had to make sure I didn't throw too many things in the back of the truck other than logs and stuff like that.
Hey, maybe he's putting the stuff in each individual pocket. Maybe he's wearing a coat that has like a bunch of them.
He could have like about 30, 40 pockets or something.
One
like that.
One side of them will have like the 3 logs, and the other side will have like a flashlight and the
yeah.
I think that's how it probably work.
Yeah, exactly.
He has like one of those jackets with 1,000 pockets on the outside and in the inside. He's all ready.
Right. Yeah. One more thing about the gameplay that I thought was weird, and I thought it was maybe my internet connection, but at random times there'd be the game would freeze and then there'd be this like weird circle of death that would just spin around, and it would last for like anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds. And like I said, it would just freeze the game, and it'd be like at the most inopportune times too. Sometimes it'd be like when I'm driving or running from something or doing something. And I thought, all right, maybe it's just my internet connection, whatever. I'll have to deal with it. But then when I looked it up to see, because I looked up another site to see if I could find a hint on another area. And I was watching this video and it was happening to them as well. So I was like, why is that happening in the game? I don't know if that's done on purpose, but I thought that was real annoying. Did that happen to you?
Yeah, it was really annoying. I wish it didn't happen, but
yeah, I'm not sure what
how the game was.
I don't know if it was just a glitch in the game or what the deal was, but that kind of drove me crazy. I mean, it'd be one thing if it wasn't for so long, but sometimes it was.
It usually happens when you go into another section of an area.
Yeah, and sometimes, like I said, it would be anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds, and I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on with this thing? So that's my take on a lot of the gameplay. Any other comments on the gameplay that you want to add?
No, that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, if you've played a lot of these detective mystery type games, they're very similar as far as what you're doing and stuff like that. It's always about searching for things and clicking on things, and sometimes you're clicking on things that don't mean anything to the game at all. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they add to the story. Sometimes they don't. There's a lot of that. Clicking on things by accident, you got to hear the whole thing over again. Those types of things. Let's go into graphics. I thought the graphics were good.
They were. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, the snowstorm, I think, was very believable. At one point, I was running in the woods, in the snow, and stuff like that. And
always a good thing to do.
Yeah, and then you can hear the sound of the snow under your feet. You look back and you can see all your footsteps and stuff like that. In the snow, if you're running in the snow and in the woods or in some areas, you can get really confused as to where you're going, which would be very believable if it happened to you. You only really see like the character's legs, feet, and arms, so you don't really get to see much of him. But I thought the graphics were really good as far as like trees and brush and other things. That part I liked a lot.
It looked really good.
Yeah. So for music, well, if you like a lot of French Canadian music, then this is the game for you. I found myself like shutting the radio or the record players off as quickly as possible.
Why? I do not like the French Canadian music.
I mean, I don't know. It was
It was a hit or miss for me. It didn't it was like a 50-50 chance I would leave it on or just turn it off.
Yeah, I mean, if it was just music alone, it wasn't that bad. I kind of was like, okay.
If it didn't take so long for me to look at my radio and turn it off, then I'd probably turn it off a lot more.
Like, there's
no offense to you French Canadians.
Right. There's game music in the game that sets the mood, which is really good.
Yes.
But when you're in, like, you go into a house and you turn on the radio or something like that, and it's like this French Canadian music, or
I think they did that I think they did that not only to set the ambience of where you are, you're in the French Canadian area.
Right.
But I think it's also because when you do hear the radio, you're usually in an area where you're trying to figure out what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's supposed to set that kind of creepiness tone.
Yeah.
But not too creepy to scare you off, but just creepy to make you investigate further.
Right. Like I said, walking into a house where it's just playing is kind of creepy and stuff like that. So, especially if there's nobody there, it's like, whoa, that's kind of weird. But I thought the rest of the music in the game was good as far as like when you're searching and looking around for stuff. I thought that it set the mood pretty well. This review is really more about the gameplay and some of the elements in the game. Like I said, it's a little bit different than some games where you really do have to watch your character's health when dealing with the snow and in the weather. It's a little bit different than what I was used to in some of those types of mystery detective games. So it was a challenge the first time I played it, but after you start playing it, you start to get used to what you need to do and how you need to prepare yourself. Yeah, the gameplay, that was kind of interesting. So
what is your overall impression?
My overall impression, since we're talking about a French Canadian game, yeah. So I thought it was interesting. I like dealing with the elements, and like I said, the search dot, the save load feature, inventory equipment storage, I thought could have been better. I got through half of the game. I'm going to try to finish it, but for me, when I finish it, it's a one and done game. I'm not a big I'm going to go back and play this detective game. There's no point value in this game, so there's nothing like you can say, well, next time I'll try this and better my score. There's nothing like that. I mean, and there's plenty of achievements to find, but I'm not sure if like that would draw me back to saying, oh, I didn't get all the achievements. I want to make sure I get all the achievements. So I don't think there's any of that. For me, I think it's a one and done type of thing. And, on a scale from 1 to 10, I would give it a 5 out of 10.
I feel like this game is going to lead into something bigger or something like that along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Is the way it ended. I'm not going to say how, but you got to play it to find out. Overall,
and supposedly this is like the first of, I guess, possibly more coming out. I saw that a number of times, that this was just the first episode, that there might be some other stories along with this one. So, yeah.
But overall, though, I think I would probably give it 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. It was a detective game, but the fact that it was a detective game kind of set it back a little bit.
Yeah.
With the, like you said, the one and done kind of deal.
Yeah.
And the achievements. After you're done with it, that's pretty much it. Unless you really want to come back to it years upon years later.
Yeah, right.
It's not a bad game. It's kind of lacking, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
What it does have, it's pretty good.
Yeah, the otherworldly stuff that goes on in the game is kind of interesting. I will say this: it deals a little bit with the Cree Indian nation and stuff like that. So there's kind of mystical type stuff in that, which is pretty cool.
It's interesting because you get to learn folklore.
Yeah. So that's pretty neat too. Like, yeah, it's a interesting game. Again, if you're into these types of detective games, it's definitely worth trying out if you have Game Pass. But for me, like I said, there's no reason for me to run back to this game after I finish it to try it again. So, which is fine. I think a lot of those games are like that. So not a big deal.
Would you want to reveal the next game, or do you want me to reveal it?
Well, why don't you reveal the next game, since I've done a lot of talking today?
All right. Well, I'm not going to say much about it. Well, the game's Jazzpunk. I've been looking forward to this game for a while. I've been wanting it.
Yeah.
But Jazzpunk is a really interesting game, and I honestly think you're going to like it a lot.
Yeah. Based on what I saw on the trailer on Steam, that's where we're downloading it from. The trailer looked kind of interesting, and definitely looks very, strange and quirky. So
that's the fun of it, though.
Yeah, it should be pretty fun to play.
And that'll be our next week's review.
Yep, exactly.
I'm excited.
So one other update we'll give is that we've set up our email. So if you do want to contact us, you can contact us at indestructible, all one word, indestructiblegaming@gmail.com. And you can drop us a line. You can either tell us about some games that you've played that you think we should try, or let us know of what you think of some of the games we've played. Maybe give us your take on it, and be glad to mention you on one of our podcasts.
Yep.
All right. So anything else you want to add to this game this week, Mr. K?
Nope, not at all.
And that is all.
I think that's a wrap.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everyone.
This is Indestructible.
We look forward to having you join us next week. So we will talk to you soon.
All right. Peace.
Thank you. Bye.
Game over.
Hey, it's Mr. K here. I just want to let you know that you can follow us and like us on Facebook and Twitter. By the way, you can also download this podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and TuneIn Radio. All right, folks. Have an awesome day. See ya.